Thursday, December 22nd, 2022, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Jon Little. He's the publisher of the Pickaxe .xyz website. Jon, welcome to the channel. How are you?
Hey, it's great to be here, and I wanted to extend my condolences regarding Billy. I mean, we miss seeing that beautiful animal on your couch. Do you have any plans for a replacement, or is your heart still in grieving mode?
Yeah, my wife and I have been speaking about getting a new Shih Tzu. Billy is
They're,
Shih Tzu.
yeah, beautiful animal.
Yeah,
Anyway, I
but
am
yeah,
sorry for you.
thank you. But we are thinking of getting a new one, probably sometime early next year, maybe February, because right now we're going to be going away in January, so it's easier to train a puppy after we've done all our
Right.
traveling. Yeah, but before Billy, we had another Shih Tzu, so we like the Shih Tzus, and hopefully he'll be on the couch soon. We'll have to train him though.
No,
But
they love their comfort, so I'm sure
yeah,
that's yeah.
so
Anyway,
yeah, Jon, we were speaking before we came on about precious metals. You have an interesting theory going back into antiquity about how precious metals became money. And we're also talking about, more importantly, this spending bill that just came out in the US and the fact that it has a lot in it. So we can look at that as well. But maybe we'll start a little bit with your precious metals theory, which warfare theory, which is really interesting, and then segue into what's going on today.
sure. I studied anthropology and history in college and did a few field trips, and we did find wherever soldiers were parked, we always found the ancient coins. So you'll see that the first coin there from about 650 BC was minted during the Peloponnesian War, which was Sparta versus Athens. And that was a war that was sold as being a 1 or 2 year war. It went on for like 30 or 40 years. And really, the theory is that there would be 100,000 soldiers on the ground at any time to defend the castle walls, not counting the people at sea that were guarding the trade routes. And Athens was sort of like today during the Axle Age. They had a just-in-time economy. They needed to get the tin from the east so they could make the bronze, because the bronze alloy is 78% copper and 12% tin. They didn't have grains, so they had to intercept these trade routes, and it was just unfeasible to outfit these soldiers. So the king minted these coins as a way to sort of incentivize the soldiers. And then the soldiers then, with their wine, women's song, food, parties, then circulated these coins into the economy. And then, of course, government gets into the game around these marketplaces and begins to tax all the transactions. And that's all I'm saying, is that, yes, it was sort of used because it was portable, fungible, divisible, and was perceived as valuable. So that's basically the theory. But really the crux of the theory is that the kingdom or the empire can only thrive as it continues to expand. And you'll see a slide there that shows a circle.
Yeah, this one
And
here. Yeah,
no, I don't know where it's right there.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So the circle goes, you have to fund the soldiers. And I believe there was a emperor who said on his deathbed to his son, who inherited the emperor title, is take care of the soldiers first and ignore everyone else. So as you expand, you can see that.
That's Caracalla right here, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. So really, that just it's sort of what we've seen throughout history. Rome did the same thing. And then to pay for it all, you have to debase your currency. And there was a slide up above that showed the 43% debasement of the Roman denarii is exactly the same. There it is. Exactly the same number as the explosion in our US money printing. So whether you're debasing the silver purity of the denarii or you're just introducing new bills into circulation, it has the same net effect, which is the destruction of the purchasing power. And so, segue to today, what we're seeing is that our empire can only expand through constant wars. And there's a slide below showing how many wars, there it is. We've been at, those are just undeclared wars since World War II. And the media, of course, only talks about Vietnam or Afghanistan, or that's it. And we've had 57, including some attacks on our own country. And this may get a bit conspiracy, but there's a lot of architects and engineers, and myself included, that think that 9/11, for instance, was a controlled demolition based on, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, maybe, but we'll stick.
that's another subject.
Yeah.
But these are big numbers. I mean, if you just take Afghanistan, which no one talks about anymore, where after 20 years we replaced the Taliban with the Taliban, that was a $3.2 trillion war, or 5 times more expensive than Vietnam. So we've been in, that's just the symptom of how we have to feed this beast with, whether it's a war, unleashing a virus, warp speed vaccine, or all these ludicrous spending bills. And we just published this morning some bullet points of what's inside this new $1.75 trillion, they're calling it the omnibus spending package.
Yeah.
And we can discuss some of the.
Share it here right now.
Oh, that's right.
I try to focus on the money because I think that if people are aware what's going on in the monetary system, they can protect themselves. And also, I think that holding precious metals outside the system is a way of defunding these people. So that's the way I look at it. But here's your article from today. You posted something about this omnibus. Maybe you could explain to people here in the UK and Europe, because we don't follow as closely as you do. So is this like the budget in the US, or is it just an extra bill that they're going to spend that people didn't expect it?
The budget is sort of just something you see on a whitehouse.gov website. It's never adhered to. And that's why folks like you and maybe our magazine, we talk about a constrained monetary system that would hold politicians accountable. But they'll never go for that because, as you'll see in these spending bills, there's something for everyone. I mean, the word salmon is mentioned 50 or 48 times in the bill. It's like salmon is the new pork. And, bee-friendly highways, a Michelle Obama trail, museums for LGBTQ, WXYZ, LMNOP. I mean,
1.4 billion for the UN.
Yeah, I mean, and not only is there, Biden asked for 37 billion more. Now we're over 100 billion for Ukraine. And then Congress comes back and says, no, we'll just give you 47 billion, like 10 billion more than. So Ukraine's now the 51st state of the United States, or even more. I mean, most states don't have a budget like that, not even close. There's monuments for journalists, Pakistan getting money for a gender equity program, the Pentagon for sensitivity training and racial, a lot of this, what goes under diversity, education. It's basically, if you think of there's 500 members of the House or 435, there's something for everyone so they can go back to their constituents and say, see this museum or see this mural or some public arts project. And nothing really that goes to the benefit of, I could see spending for, early childhood education, but these are all just fluff or what we call pork barrel, or now we'll call it salmon fishbowl activities. But
Nancy Pelosi fellowship program.
yeah, what is that? I mean, this is a woman who never picks a bad stock. There's that site Unusual Whales where he's documented. These are members of Congress. They get intelligence briefings that are classified, and in that day they can go out and buy and sell energy stocks or war profiteering stocks. So this is just corrupt. They go in having about a net worth of 50,000, and then when they leave, their net worth is in excess of $10 to $100 million. This is just clown world,
Yeah.
pure. And the collapse of Rome was the same thing. As it collapsed, the corruption was on full-on display for everyone to see, like Hunter Biden having sex with underage girls. He's not even hiding it. He's smoking crack. It's no big deal. When you get to this level of corruption, these are signs of a dying empire.
Well, the same thing is going on here. I think yesterday, Boris Johnson, who's not the prime minister anymore, but he's still very popular, he tweeted out, let's all turn off our Christmas lights at 8 p.m. to show solidarity to the Ukraine. So we're 100% behind this as well, even though we don't have the reserve currency to spend the billions. We're still doing a lot of it, a lot of the spending to help Ukraine. And here we had, today I spoke about this in my video, and I used the clown world word, term, because that's becoming more and more, how can I say, prevalent, because people like you and I and others see that this is just ridiculous. And here we have in the UK, everything is going down the drain economically and socially. We have a strike every day in December. We'll probably get a strike again, more strikes in January from all sectors of the economy, like the health services, the ambulances, the civil service. Everyone's striking because we've debased the currency so much here. And the thing is, they're putting the blame, the central bankers and the government, on the war in Ukraine for this, but we all know it's decades of money printing and debasement.
Yeah, that's simply what it is. And what you said earlier, Mario, was spot on. That when you hold silver or gold, you're basically holding the opposite of the dollar, which is really, if you think about the United States, our main export is not soybeans or steel like they used to make in Pittsburgh, or cars in Detroit. The main export is the US dollar. And so we get the luxury of just printing as much as we want because it's still the reserve currency.
Don't forget, sorry,
but not for long. I mean,
don't forget also another export is war and all the arms that go along with it.
That's true. If you look at these war profiteers and these members of Congress that invest in them, look at the boondoggle or the gravy train that was Iraq, where we went in, we steal the gold. That's the other playbook. And that's in the precious metals warfare theory, is that, like Cortez stole the Aztec golds, Pizarro stole the Incas gold and silver. I believe the ransom room was one room of gold and the two adjacent rooms of silver. They stole 24 tons in a weekend, which is more than, most countries even have vaulted. But this does segue into the new, Executive Order 14067, which will be the central bank digital currency, because as the Fed is right now intentionally wrecking everything. They're raising rates into a recession. And that's always been the plan, is to basically get everyone dependent on the Fed. So there'll be this outcry, people screaming for help. The Fed will come in, they're wrecking it now. Then they're going to be try to position themselves as the saviors. And we'll see that as the Biden regime tries to come up with emergency use authorizations for a virus or a pandemic of some kind. They're already doing simulations on what the next pandemic will be. And then we have this new app that'll trace our carbon, whether we're complying with health mandates, sort of like you see in Sri Lanka, China, complete with facial recognition and QR codes that turn red, social credit systems. They're programmable, can be turned on and off. I mean, this is coming. No one's hiding it. So there's a lot that, again, like you said, Mario, about holding silver as the anti-dollar. I would say silver and gold are also the anti-CBDC. And that's why the press never talks about. I mean, silver's made this monstrous move since September to yesterday. It's gone up 30%. And if that happened with Tesla or Amazon or Google's or Microsoft stock, they would be doing naked cartwheels on CNBC and Bloomberg or Yahoo News, and not one word from mainstream media about this massive move from $16 to $24 in less than 3 months, and not one word from domestic media.
The other thing as well, I mean, I think silver was down a bit just before we started, but it's still slightly higher year to date. And if you look at the NASDAQ, S&P, and Dow, they're all, NASDAQ is down 30%. Bonds are down. You would think you would hear more on the mainstream, even though I don't watch TV anymore. But I don't see anyone saying, "Wow, silver's been the pretty good this year." It's actually held its own while everything else has gone down. And
if you look also at the 20-year, I hear people, because I'm a publisher of a precious metals magazine and I'm the market strategist for the David Morgan report, and I'll get people complaining, and I say, well, just pull up the S&P 500 for the past 20 years, and you'll see that silver has held its own just perfectly. It's doing what it's supposed to do. And there's also these, nefarious forces with all the derivative paper trading that smashes down the price. We got to remember that a derivative is, something that derives value from an underlying asset. And if these bankers can trade in paper, a whole year's of mining activity can be traded in a day or two. So we know that's just an artificial management of the market, and that there'll be discovery real soon.
And I think also derivatives are not only used to control the prices of precious metals, but everything else. I was a futures and options broker in the government bond market. And I think that market has been, up until recently, heavily, the tail is wagging the dog, so to speak, with the derivatives were driving like the underlying bond market. But now with inflation rising, that's changing. So derivatives have been used as a tool. And if you look at derivatives, up until the early 70s, the only kind of derivatives we had were agricultural commodities, and because those are actually have a useful they're useful because farmers they've been using that for, centuries to hedge against nature, and so they can fix the price of their crops. But since we went off Bretton Woods, the gold exchange system with Nixon, and then we went floating rate exchange, financial derivatives have mushroomed. And I think eventually when this system implodes, all these derivatives are going to they're going to become worthless. And a lot of the big banks that trade them, and hedge funds, and even we saw pension funds in the UK here, they almost went bust from derivatives.
Right.
And I think Warren Buffett will be proven right. Weapons of mass financial destruction. Maybe you could tell the viewers about this subreddit page.
Yeah, We just started it, just days ago. And the idea is really there's so much division on Twitter and in the cultural wars. And maybe you've seen the meme that has like this Federal Reserve guy standing above an aquarium, and you've got people on the left talking about something, and they're fighting the people on the right, whether it's on guns, abortion, um, textbooks, all the cultural wars that the ruling class loves us to fight over. So I'm thinking, well, people on the right and people on the left, the GOP and the Democrats, at least we can all agree on one thing, and that being that the central bank digital currency will be a tool of doom. So the hope is that, and we're going to always fight over stuff like guns and all these in the environment, but I know we can band together to hate this central bank digital currency. So the Reddit group is just a way to come together, share your experiences, what you're seeing. I'm certain it's going to go down like this, like one goes to the Department of Motor Vehicles to register their car, and the clerk there says, would you like to register for the real ID, which happened to me just last week. And I go, well, what's the real ID? And they go, well, that's a digital tool that so you can board an airplane, for instance. And I go, well, I have already got a passport, I'm good. And they go, well, it'll be good because they can scan your face. And I'm thinking, scan your face? It's like, so that's just the
Yeah.
idea of this subreddit is for everyone to share their experience as we enter this dystopian nightmare. And it's it's Reddit/no CBDC. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And
And I
we're
think they
ready.
use the excuse, well, they tell people it's convenient. That's why you should use it. And a couple of weeks ago, my bank here in the UK, NatWest, I have an app on the phone, which is really useful to use. And I went in it, and they had a notice for me. Oh, you can keep track of your carbon footprint now by clicking here, and I just ignored it. So they're trying it on. Maybe you could talk about this omnibus omnibus spending bill. How much did they dedicate to CBDC? Because I think you saw something in there for CBDC as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't, I have to still unpack that because it's very
Yeah,
sneaky.
yeah,
It was one of those things where Biden, in the middle of the night on a Sunday, rolled out Executive Order 14067.
yeah,
So there'll be lots of times in the United States, for instance, it's even hard to see how much we spend on defense because some of it will be hidden in the Department of Defense, some is hidden in the Department of Energy to fund like Los Alamos Labs and Sandia Labs. So it's very, very sneaky. I thought it was funny that they're funding with all this kerfuffle regarding our FBI and Department of Justice. There's more money for them to, fix up their building. It's like,
yeah.
it just never stops. I mean, what was your favorite, Mario, when you looked at some of these bullet points as far as being absurd?
I like the Ukrainian National Park in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, yeah, there we
They
go.
got money
And
for that.
I mean, Zelensky was flown into DC on a private jet, and he did his dog and pony show to a standing ovation. It was just
He couldn't even
unbelievable.
wear a nice suit, which I'm sure he has one. And my wife was telling me that apparently his wife, she was in Europe recently speaking to European Parliament and everything, and apparently she spent, and I don't know if this is true, but the word is that she spent $40,000 shopping in Paris,
Oh yeah.
while most of the Ukraine have no power right now. So yeah, and yeah, yeah, like I said, he couldn't even wear a decent suit. But I remember there's also the National Defense Authorization Act. Is that separate from this, or is this it?
No, that's separate from
Yeah,
this.
because they passed that a couple of weeks ago.
That's right.
I
And
mean,
they're
it's
always gonna, and
yeah,
that again, you and I talked about whether it's precious metals warfare theory, where the empire always has to expand
yeah.
and find a new,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's usually to rob,
the debt
loot
can't keep expanding without new debt.
without new debt. And it's usually going to be some sort of war. Like I
Mm,
said, there's 57 since These are all these undeclared wars too. No one
Yeah.
talks about Somalia or what
Oh, yeah.
right now I think we're bombing Yemen.
And Sudan as well. You spoke about Sudan. You mentioned that they've got a lot of gold there and it's all going to Russia.
Right. Yeah. Oh, we're not the only ones that
Remember,
China loves this playbook. The whole Belt and Road Initiative is sort of they took our IMF model, which is debt trap financing, where you just say we're
yeah,
going to loan. And if you read on page 57 of the contract, you can go back in and repossess the critical infrastructure in third world countries. That's all Latin America and
mm,
Africa are. They're carved up to where one
yeah,
country has to export bananas, another country has to export
yeah.
sugar. It's the neo-colonialism. It hasn't changed at all.
You know, you asked me which spending was your favorite out of this omnibus spending bill, and I actually remember the National Defense Authorization Act in 2015 under Obama, and it came out right at the end of the year, and apparently they snuck in for Citibank, for Citigroup, and the whole Wall Street gang. They snuck in this thing that made the FDIC insurance. They could use that for the derivatives exposure that they have. The Wall Street Bank. Did you know that? I think
No,
that's
I
one of the
didn't.
most. You should Google that. I mean, so they put that into the National Defense Authorization Act, so they can put anything they want in these things.
Right.
Like Rand Paul said, it's over 4,000 pages. We've got an hour or two to read it, and it goes. People don't read it.
And they just pass it. And
Yeah.
here in the US, I just flew back from New Mexico. My dad passed away, and it was
Sorry
so I'm
to
going to
hear.
say a little prayer
Yeah.
for him. But he had a wonderful life. He didn't have to spend one day in a nursing home, so we got lucky there. But I'm flying back, and in Albuquerque, I have to walk through this sort of gauntlet of dogs. And I'm going to post that video. I'll put it up on the website in this, just because it goes under surveillance. I'm thinking, here we are since 9/11, we're still stuck with these TSA people. There's hundreds of them. If you navigate through all these people that are, and I'm not going to knock their qualifications, but I think if you can fog a mirror, you
Yeah.
get the job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple like that. And
Yeah. It's
we're
like
still
when
we're
we
still stuck
travel
with
here.
it.
Yeah, when we travel here, my wife and I have been traveling a little more after 2021. And it's just a nightmare going through all the security at airports. But it's a whole industry. And I think I forgot his name, but I think he was head of Homeland Security. Um, he's like,
Brown, I think it
no,
was.
no, it
I
was a
can't remember.
dual national guy, American
Oh
Israeli.
yeah,
Uh,
and we're still stuck with the Patriot
and
Act.
he was one of the biggest investors in one of these security companies that provide all this machinery, the scanning and the stuff at the airports. And it's must be a multi-billion
Oh
dollar
yeah,
industry because it's all over the place and it employs loads of people. Uh, and Yeah, so we're stuck with that. That was one of the consequences. And I think what happened in 2020 until recently, and I don't want to mention too much, the health thing. There's a whole new industry coming up because of that as well. And it's all based on you could argue, I don't know. I like you, I'm not too convinced about it, but they use these things, they kill loads of birds with one stone, it seems.
right. Well, with the health thing, we'll just call it the health thing. It'll be rolled into the sort of like the vaccine passport, which was just passed by the G20. Just had a meeting. I
Yeah,
think,
I
where
don't
did they march off to in their
I
private
don't
jets?
think they passed it, but they made a declaration that they want one.
Okay, well,
Here in Europe, it can go almost anywhere and I don't need traveling just before like 2020. But for example, if I wanted to come and visit you in the US, I wouldn't be able to because for only Americans and diplomats and members of governments can travel to the US and not require any certification for the vaccine. So I wouldn't be able to go to the US anymore unless that changes.
We'll see. I wanted to pick up on an insightful thing you brought up, Mario, when you were talking about derivatives having a use, like for instance, for farmers to hedge against a flood. It made
Yeah.
sense.
Or a
With
drought.
our modern banking system, and this is where this will be probably the domino, is the way banks take, in the old days, you would loan a factory money, and after they produced their bricks, they would pay you back in a little bit of interest. It was a great business model. Same with farmers, factories.
Commercial bills and discount bills.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
now the plan is let's take bad loans and package them together and call it something else and pass it off to where another bank on their books through a double entry system counts it as a good
And
thing.
then they'll pass it on to a pension fund, and they will
Right. So in the middle of the night with these default swaps, I mean, anyone that's seen the movie The Big Short, nothing is done to correct that since, quote, 2008. And it was a disaster before then. So this next meltdown is just going to be, gargantuan and epic,
Yeah.
and get your popcorn out, as we say on Reddit.
Yeah.
And, but it's unfortunate because we've been preparing for it through silver and gold. But most people, what is the percentage of people that hold silver and gold? I believe it's less than 0.5%.
What about I get a lot of this question about CBDCs and precious metals. What do you think is going to happen if we do have a CBDC? Because I'm still not convinced they'll be able to implement it. They tried to implement track and trace here during the disease, and I never never downloaded the app, or never, if I had to go to a restaurant and sign in, if I didn't have the app, I would put just I would put like Alexander the Great and then put a phone number there, So can't
Well, the
I hope they
CBDC,
fail though. But yeah, so how? But because a lot of people ask the question, just let me how are the people who hold physical gold and silver? How are they gonna be able to be part of the system? I don't think there's gonna be any difference, but just want to have your view if we're gonna be able to easily, let's say, sell some of our silver and put it into the CBDC, and how's that gonna work?
Here's how I think it will play out. You sort of asked two questions. They're both fantastic questions. One was adoption of the CBDC. I think, of course, if it were up to us, we would just say, "No, we're not going to do that." But I think it'll be sort of pegged to you have to pay your taxes this way, and since taxes are compulsory, or to get your Social Security benefits, you need to have this device. So compliance will go through either the health benefits sector, your taxes, or other entitlements like Social Security. Now, regarding how silver and gold can be used in an environment where there's a central bank digital currency, I think it's sort of like having it sort of on a black market or a gray market area. It's going to be huge to be able to have real money to just like you see people often trade. You'll see a mechanic trade with a doctor to get things off the books. So I think silver and gold will have a huge role. You're traveling, you want to get a bite to eat. Just have you ever been to a restaurant where it says cash only because they don't want to pay the transaction fee for Visa or MasterCard? That's a huge movement here in the United States. I'd say almost any Vietnamese or Indian or Thai restaurant I go to in Pittsburgh is cash only. So cash only now will be like silver only later, because it's real money. And it's so CBDC. There was a time like in Sweden or in Europe where banknotes were just introduced to the people. The French version was called rentes. The Spanish version was called euros. The Bank of England started where they loaned money to the king so the king could fight France. And 40 businessmen got together and formed the Bank of England and then shoved banknotes down everyone's
Yeah.
throat. But the merchants still had silver and gold,
Yeah.
and so it'll be like that, an underground
Yeah.
exchange. And the
And
black market will be more powerful than anything the government can do because we're the 99%. Anyway,
and I
go ahead.
also think though that it will be just like now. We can still exchange gold and silver for fiat dollars. We'll be able,
Right.
I think we'll be able to exchange for, not on the black market, but also for the CBDC. I'm not sure they want to stop that because do you think the CBDCs, because my feeling is that if we have a collapse of the currencies, like I think we will, because if, they don't stop spending and one day it's all just going to hyperinflate, they're going to have to convince us that the CBDC is better than the old fiat currency. So they might have to back it. What's your view on that?
Yeah, they'll probably back it. I think it'll be rolled out at the same time as, since everything's crashing and everybody's losing their jobs, and it'll be backed by some kind of universal basic income. I think that's the other component. Just like during the pandemic, the Fed sent out, billions in free money. I mean, when you say that, I mean, that's sort of the way you incentivize people is you bribe them. And
Yeah.
there's a huge underclass in the world right now that will be screaming out for assistance because like I said, the prerequisite is the Fed is wrecking things intentionally
Yeah.
so they can come back and be the savior.
I've
That's
heard people say that I think one idea would be for the Fed or the Treasury to issue a perpetual debt that never matures, and
yeah,
and then issue that as the other side of the UBI, Universal Basic Income. And I even noticed George Soros, who's a great guy, right? I'm
yeah,
joking. I'm joking. He even said a few months ago that the governments in the West should think about perpetual bonds. So I think they might bring that, and I think that's another reason why people need to hold gold and silver, because the CBDC, like you said, is just going to be, people are going to be so desperate they're going to accept it, but it's going to be just as bad as as what we have now in terms of maintaining its purchasing power.
right. Good point.
Yeah, but I guess they could program it to stop you from spending it too much, so to bring down the debasement. What do you think about that? The
Yeah, I think the
programmability.
programming works simply that it expires. So they don't want people saving. So basically, if it expires, you just have to spend, it'll be almost like frequent flyer miles. Then every time people try to redeem those, there's always a myriad of more bureaucratic nonsense you have to go through.
Mm,
But having programmable money is a very disturbing.
mm.
It'll be rather inconvenient, extremely unpleasant situation.
So, what do you think is the best hope for people like you and I who believe in individual freedom and sound money?
Well, I would say continue to stack as you can afford. Continue to be what you do here on YouTube is so valuable because mainstream media is complicit in the agenda of the ruling class. So we need channels like yours to get these alternative news. And really, if you take channels like yours and others, you guys have more viewers than CNN. Seriously,
Yeah.
take Joe Rogan. He's one guy in a microphone and he's just mopping the floor with these because no one's believing the state-sponsored media. It's just the Ministry of Propaganda, and so we come to see you and others for a shred of decency, truth, and not to be gaslighted. So I think it's community. That's why I'm building the CBDC Reddit group, emailing each other, Twitter. It was nice to see that a lot of the people that were silenced, like doctors that said, let's use some zinc and vitamin C and
Mm.
other modalities. It does, and these people like Dr. Malone and Dr. Paul Merrick, these are wonderful doctors that were silenced because of the arbiters of truth or the fact checkers or the censor people, you know. And hats off to you that you're crafty enough not to get censored, Mario. How many
Yeah.
strikes do you have?
Well, actually, last year, maybe I shouldn't talk about it.
Okay, let's.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay, that's fine.
It wasn't, it was just one video that they deleted. That's all I have.
All right,
But,
yeah.
so where can the viewers find your thoughts and your ideas?
Well, let's put pickaxe.xyz in the description field and that Reddit link.
Yeah,
And that would be the best.
let me just bring these up here. So we've got the subreddit. It's the non Reddit / no CBDC, and then the Pickaxe website.
Thank you, Mario.
Let me just share this as well so the viewers can see it.
Yeah, and people go to the contact on the Pickaxe,
Yeah. Oh,
scroll
here.
over to contact.
Yeah. There
You
we
can
go.
always send me a note there.
Yeah. Okay. Are
So
you on Twitter as well?
yeah, I'm on Twitter. Go to the footer of my webpage. It should
Let's see on
there
the
should be a Twitter all the way down in the
home.
sorry everybody, we're doing some
Yeah. Oh, there we go. And
there's a little bird. So it's the pickaxe_AG.
oh, great, great. Okay,
So
yeah. I have to follow that. There we go.
thank you.
All right.
So thanks so much today, Mario. Your viewers are really engaged. They really like you. I watch you all the time. I'm real honored. I mean, you've had Lynette Zhang and Keith Weiner and some of these really bunch of all-stars that are much smarter than I am. And I really am humbled and honored to visit with you and your viewers today.
Oh, you're welcome. And yeah, it's nice of you to come on as well. And we'll have to do it again.
Yes, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and let's all just strap in because 2023 is going to be not, like Lennon said, there'll be weeks or decades where nothing happens, and then weeks where decades will happen, and that's what we're seeing. So anyway, take care, stay awesome, my friends.
Thank you, Jon, and take care. Bye.